Welcome to Aztec University, an education program offering continued learning on topics from Dynamics GP to other technology solutions. This video will cover a few minutes of tips and tricks for Dynamics GP year-end closing procedures. Before starting your year-end closing process, there are some tips that are recommended before you even start the process itself. One of the most important tips that you can do is make sure that you have a backup of all the company databases before performing both your period and year-end closing procedures. The reason this is important and why you typically want to do it before you do the month-end close as well as year-end close is that way, if you've gone in, you have any problems, you posted a journal entry that should have been posted, you've made adjustments, and you want to be able to recover it and not start all over again, an easy way to be able to do that is just by making sure that you have a good backup. In fact, a typical recommendation is make a backup before you start each module year-end close process. Another recommendation is making sure that your data is clean by going in and running check links for all your modules. Any of those modules that you're doing year-end close for, if you've got orphan records that are sitting out there, possibly bad batches that might be lingering, POs that, the header and line item details are not linked up, running check links will help make sure that your data is a little bit cleaner. So again, it's a really good thing to do while you're in the middle of getting ready for your year-end close process. Another one is performing your regular period and closing procedures for all your modules. So your typical inventory, month-end close stock count, doing as far as your payables, reconciliation to your general ledger, your receivables, reconciliation to your general ledger, your GL adjustments as far as the end of that month itself. Those are just some examples that you might want to do as far as those month-end processes. Then from there, again, just like before you started that process, when you're done with that process, make another backup of your company databases. That way, if you do have problems as being part of that year-end close, you do a restore, you've at least been able to perform those month-end close processes and are not going to have to repeat them again. Once you've done that, another great recommendation is to print out all your financial reports before that year-end close process. Your balance sheets, your P&Ls, if you have cash flow statements, your especially when it comes to balance sheets, the reason why you want to be able to print that out is because as during that year-end close process, it will take any of your balance sheets and move them over to being the beginning balances for the next year. But if you happen to have a couple of those GL accounts that when they were set up as a balance sheet account instead of a P&L account, then you might actually have some of those GL like expense accounts showing up with beginning balances. That's a very typical indication that that account was not set up properly. So when the year-end close process happened, it now has a beginning balance. So by going in and printing out the financial reports before that process, you then have something that you can validate against once you are done with that year-end close. Once you finish that, then the next thing that they will recommend that you do is to set up the fiscal periods for the new year. So what that means is in Dynamics GP, typically as far as you might have 2 years of fiscal periods set up, but then as far as once you're done with that, you now have a new year. It's like most people don't realize that they have to go in and actually set up a new year. So what we want to do to be able to make sure that those new years are set up is we can either just under the Dynamics GP menu, under Tools, Setup, Company, or if you're on your administration page, under the administration page, we can go down to our Setup, Company, and we can go to our fiscal periods. From here, we want to create a new one. This is where you can click on that drop-down arrow, see how many actual fiscal periods that you currently have out there, and you'll notice I have quite a few. But to create a new one, I can just type in what that new year is going to be. You'll notice it will automatically default for my first and last day based on the prior years. And then to go ahead and create them, you can just click on Calculate. You'll see it's going to generate all of those new periods based on the 2 first and last dates as well as the number of periods. So it might be that if you're running a 554 or a 553 that you want to be able to have out there, then that's where your first date And your end date might be a little bit off. So like if you're actually doing it from a September to August, that might be an example where you have your opening and closing, and then this is where, as far as when the next actual beginning of the next period would start, you can manually go in and overwrite these actual days as necessary. So if I came in here and typed in 13, I did a calculate. As it goes in and calculates, you'll now see that it's just a little bit off compared to, because it goes in and does the calculation based on the number of days and based on the number of periods to be able to get that value. If you need to make changes, let's say it was accidentally typed in, again, you can actually update the periods, click on it, and it will now actually give you the new fiscal periods. So that is as far as some of the steps that we recommend for preparing for a year-end close process. Thank you for watching Aztec University Tips and Tricks. For more information on Aztec University and upcoming topics, visit Aztec's YouTube channel or go to www.aztecsystems.com/au.